In the 1940s, Jinx Falkenberg became well known as a familiar face to the public. She started out as a model but expanded her career into movies. In Hollywood, she appeared in standout productions like CoverGirl, sharing the screen with Gene Kelly and Rita Hayworth, proving her versatility to the industry. In the 1970s, Pam Grier established herself as a reference in film, combining striking beauty, talent, and a rare presence. By starring in stories about strong, independent women, she broke dominant molds and opened space for new female portrayals on screen, inspiring artists and audiences to this day even more. Before we go on, go ahead and click subscribe and turn on the notification bell. That way, each new episode gets to you at the right time, and none of this journey goes unnoticed. In the early 1990s, the series Saved by the Bell blew up on TV, boosted by the presence of Elizabeth Berkley, Lark Voorhees, and Tiffany Thiessen. The three brought the main characters to life with lightness, pace, and charisma, creating memorable figures that helped define the show's spirit for young audiences. In 1991, at the start of the 1990s, Brendan Fraser appeared in movies as a name to watch. He was taking his first steps in the entertainment industry and starting to build the space that would later make him a recognized presence on screen, paving the way for bigger roles and more ambitious challenges. Angelina Jolie appeared in the late 1980s and quickly established herself as one of the most talked-about figures in entertainment. Born on June 4, 1975 in the U.S., she started out between modeling and acting classes, a path that naturally led her to movies, where she began to show range and charisma to the public. In 1976, John Travolta emerged as a standout in Hollywood, combining charisma, solid acting, and skill in dance. At just 22, he won over audiences and caught the industry's attention, quickly establishing himself as a strong name full of potential in the movies of that time, being seen as a promise. In 1953, Ava Gardner was one of the brightest names in Hollywood. Besides her talent on screen, she sparked curiosity for her intense personal life and striking beauty. Marriages to Mickey Rooney, Artie Shaw, and Frank Sinatra kept the public attentive to her journey, a constant topic at the time in the press and behind the scenes. In 1994, during the MTV Video Music Awards, the audience saw something special. Sandra Bullock and Adam Sandler side by side to announce an award. The unexpected pairing mixed charm and humor, created instant chemistry, and turned the brief appearance into one of the most talked-about moments of the night at that event. In the 1970s, British music was shaken by the arrival of Kate Bush, a young woman with rare talent and a vision of her own. She quickly stood out and created an identity that made her a lasting reference. Besides the songs, she drew attention for her theatrical performances and her original inventive music videos. In 1980, entertainment saw a rare encounter between Carrie Fisher and John Belushi. She, marked as Princess Leia, he, a comedy icon from Saturday Night Live. The closeness between the two went beyond that moment, influencing their paths and leaving a mark on pop culture that fans remember to this day around the world. In the 1970s, Tina Louise stood out in entertainment, showing a confident and charismatic presence. Born on February 11, 1934 in New York, she caught the attention of audiences and producers with expressive roles, establishing herself in relevant productions from that period through much of the decade and expanding her visibility. Faye Dunaway showed her versatility by playing Bonnie in Bonnie and Clyde, 1967. Alongside Warren Beatty, she brought strength and delicacy to the role, creating a partnership that made the outlaws' romance feel intense and believable on screen, keeping the audience hooked on every scene and emotion in a striking and unique portrayal. Fay Wray stood out in classic cinema by playing the lead in King Kong, released in 1933. Even with special effects still in their early days, she had to imagine the danger and react precisely, creating an intense performance that made her famous worldwide and marked the film forever, becoming its unforgettable face. Before we go on, go ahead and click subscribe and turn on the notification bell. That way, each new episode gets to you at the right time and none of this journey goes unnoticed. Joan Collins established herself as one of the most memorable figures of the 1970s. With a confident presence and a style that drew attention, she was in movies and on TV with roles that stayed in people's memories, reinforcing her image as an influential star of the period, always associated with charm and confidence, admired by the public. Lindsay Wagner, an American actress born in Los Angeles on June 22, 1949, gained prominence on television in the 1970s. Her combination of charisma and dramatic skill made her a beloved face to audiences and a symbol of a fertile and inventive moment in entertainment during that era of cultural change. In 1953, at 20 years old, Joan Collins was already getting noticed on the British scene. Born on May 23, 1933, in Paddington, London, she was moving steadily towards stardom. That year, she appeared in productions like Decameron Nights and The Woman's Angle, solidifying her name in a rising film industry. Elizabeth Montgomery, an American actress, gained worldwide recognition in the 1960s. Besides shining on TV, she used her visibility to support social causes, defending gender equality and aligning herself with the civil rights movement for Black people in the U.S., making her career also an act of public commitment. In the lively 1960s, Raquel Welch appeared as a striking face in film, and soon took a prominent place among the artists of her time. Coming from runways and photo shoots, she gained visibility in magazines and high-circulation ads, opening the door to acting and definitely winning over the public. In the 1970s, the British TV show The Benny Hill Show became a sensation by mixing physical comedy, fast pace, and unpredictable sketches. Created and hosted by Benny Hill, it established itself as a long-running and much-loved show, a symbol of light, popular entertainment from that decade on world television. In the 1940s, Janet Blair stood out in entertainment with talent and a striking presence. Born on April 23, 1921 in the U.S., she became a well-known figure of the period, winning over audiences and critics with solid performances and a charisma that kept her constantly in the spotlight, a symbol of the era's charm. In the early 1960s, Claudia Cardinale gained momentum in Italian cinema. With on-screen beauty and clear talent, she became one of the most talked-about actresses of the period. Her work soon went beyond Italy and won over audiences in other countries, reinforcing her image as an international star. In the 1940s in Hollywood, Lana Turner stood out as an actress of rare beauty and striking talent. Her on-screen presence kept audiences captivated. But away from the studios, she had intense romances and turbulent episodes that kept her name constantly in the spotlight, always. In 1973, Sally Kellerman reached a high point in film. By playing Major Hot Lips Houlihan, she won over audiences and critics and was nominated for the Oscar for Best Supporting Actress, cementing her talent and firmly strengthening her career before the industry and the general public in that historic year. In 1982, Tanya Roberts gained attention by playing Kiri in the movie The Beastmaster. With a strong performance and charisma, she turned the heroine into an icon of 1980s fantasy. The role increased her visibility and opened the way for more expressive characters later, establishing her image as a rising star. In 1941, at the height of Hollywood, Dorothy Lamour was establishing herself as a top-tier star. Charismatic and skilled, she was already enchanting audiences around the world. That year, she shone in The Thief of Baghdad, a fantasy that would become one of the landmarks of her career, and reinforced her image as an on-screen icon. We've reached the end of our video. Subscribe to our channel and leave a comment if you liked the content. See you next time.
In 1953, Marilyn Monroe turned her fame into a symbol of post-war movies. At 20th Century Fox, she starred with Jane Russell in Gentlemen Prefer Blondes and made Diamonds Are a Girl's Best Friend a defining moment. The hit brought new confidence to musical comedies and kept Hollywood's studio system running strong. Elizabeth Montgomery made her mark on 1960s American TV with Bewitched, 1964-72. Between films and TV dramas, she built a career that synced with the rise of the big networks and pop culture. By playing leads with humor and independence, she opened doors for women on screen and left a lasting legacy that still inspires productions. In 1943, with the country mobilized for World War II, Penn Station became a major crossroads. Amid departure announcements and whistles, the platform saw scenes of final hugs. Soldiers went, families stayed. Headed for unknown fronts, the railroads powered the war effort, moving people, weapons, and supplies from coast to coast. 1995 marked a turning point in Hollywood. Comedies and franchises ruled theaters while the industry reorganized. In that landscape, Cameron Diaz stopped being just a model and established herself as an actress, landing roles and exposure. she became a symbol of a generation as new stars emerged and celebrity marketing took off. In 1947, in the post-war years, the Dane Peter Freuchen, 1886, returned to adventure with his third wife, illustrator Dagmar Kohn. The expeditions revived scientific interest in the Arctic and Greenland, where he had lived among the Inuit since the early 20th century, blending field memories, current questions, and new records. A photo that marked a shift. In 1941, in Canada, Veronica Foster was photographed on the John Inglis production line, operating a Bren machine gun. The image ran through war effort campaigns across the country and became a symbol of women in factories, capturing the Allied civilian mobilization in World War II from 1939 to 1945. Christine Keeler, an English model and dancer, went down in history as the center of the Profumo affair. In 1961, she got involved with John Profumo, then Secretary of State for War, and, at the same time, with Soviet attaché Yevgeny Ivanov. The triangle, in a Cold War climate, set off security alarms and shook Britain's conservative government. On December 17, 1903, on the dunes of Kitty Hawk, North Carolina, Orville and Wilbur Wright got the first powered, controlled airplane off the ground. The leap capped years of experiments with gliders and careful calculations. Modern aviation was born there, amid a race for patents and the inventive fever of the early 20th century. Around 1900, Old San Juan stood as a walled city, watched over by El Morro and San Cristobal. After 1898, under the United States, it kept its Spanish street grid, stone paving, and house balconies. In the harbor, the comings and goings of ships connected the Caribbean, while Criollo traditions, Catholic faith, and colonial trading routines shaped urban life. In 1881, the Statue of Liberty was taking shape in Paris at the Gaget, Gautier, and Sillé workshops. Copper plates were attached to an iron framework designed by Gustave Eiffel. Created by Frederick Auguste Bartholdi, the work would head to the U.S. to mark the centennial of independence and symbolize the Franco-American partnership. The photo captures this moment of assembly. In the 1960s, as TV spread around the world and pop turned into an industry, Raquel Welch wasn't limited to film. She recorded songs, danced in specials, and posed as a model. The shift reflected a time when versatility opened doors. By constantly reinventing herself, she broadened her reach and gained international exposure. Joe Black Fox, known as Chief Joe Black Fox, was a Sioux leader and artist. In 1898, he joined Buffalo Bill's Wild West, a touring show that staged frontier episodes for big crowds. His path shows how indigenous chiefs, under pressure from assimilation policies, sought income, visibility, and the preservation of their people's memory. On June 16, 1963, Valentina Tereshkova made history by commanding Vostok 6 and becoming the first woman to reach space. It was almost 3 days in orbit, in the heat of the Cold War and the space race. The mission boosted Soviet prestige and opened new doors for women's presence in the exploration of the cosmos. In the 1940s, Halloween took root in U.S. neighborhoods, guided by the ritual of trick-or-treat. With the war and rationing, costumes were made from whatever was at hand: sheets, patches, improvised masks. Kids showed off papier-mâché or rubber heads, tapping into local folklore and a dark humor that eased tensions. In 1954, Janet Leigh was riding the peak of the studio system. Under contract and married to Tony Curtis, she jumped between an epic and a noir, The Black Shield of Falworth and Rogue Cop. With television expanding in that changing landscape, she split her time between the set and anthology shows on the small screen, staying in the spotlight in both arenas. On the eve of World War I, around 1914, the likeness of Alexandra Fyodorovna, the Russian empress and wife of Nicholas II, took shape in clay. While the Tsar was away, she got involved in court affairs and grew close to the mystic Rasputin, deepening public distrust and signaling the tensions that would crash down in 1917, a sign of the final collapse. In 1942, when the war shaped every gesture, the young Princess Elizabeth, at 16, took on the post of honorary colonel of the Grenadier Guards, one of the oldest regiments in the Household Division. The move reinforced the bond between Crown and Army and brought her into the rituals that helped keep morale up and boost recruitment in the United Kingdom. In the 1950s, in the post-war boom and the growth of suburban consumption, magazines and fairs sold the dream of houses that would run themselves. The yard became the stage for that expectation. Prototypes of autonomous lawnmowers appeared, guided by radio or buried cables, a clear preview of what we later call home automation. Barbara Eden got her start in the 1950s, splitting time between the stage and small parts in movies and TV as television was taking hold in post-war America. In the next decade, playing Jeannie on I Dream of Jeannie, she leapt from obscurity to stardom and turned the show into a comedy touchstone. The role cemented her image and opened the door to new work. On the eve of D-Day, in May 1944, Princess Elizabeth visited a British airbase to see the airborne troops up close. She watched parachute jumps and simulated maneuvers. Her presence, quiet and steady, signaled that the Crown was tracking the final preparations for the offensive that would clear the way to Europe's liberation. Seated front and center, Queen Victoria stares into the lens. Behind her, the Indians Mustafa and Chitta, in uniform and wearing their medals, hold their pose. The framing lays out hierarchies while also suggesting closeness, starting in 1876 with the title Empress of India. The court symbolically brought subjects of the Raj into the fold and put Victorian imperial logic on display. September 1940, the Blitz begins. In London, members of the ATS wearing dark glasses scan the sky from an anti-aircraft battery. In front of them, a rangefinder guides the gun's aim. The scene shows women's presence in Britain's air defense against the Luftwaffe during World War II, a portrait of courage and skill in the middle of the bombing. In 1956, at Motorama, Pontiac unveiled the Club de Mer, a two-seat sports concept. Born in the jet age and post-war optimism, the prototype had a fiberglass, bullet-shaped body, a super low profile, and flowing lines, capturing Detroit's drive for speed, lightness, and an experimental spirit. On May 6, 1937, the Hindenburg, a German passenger airship, went up in flames and marked the end of the Zeppelin era. Filled with hydrogen, it crossed the Atlantic on prestige routes for the Nazi regime. As it approached the mooring mast in Lakehurst, New Jersey, it caught fire. The live broadcast carried the shock around the world and shattered trust in these giants. On August 9, 1902, the coronation of Edward VII at Westminster Abbey marked the shift from the post-Victorian era to the Edwardian age. As King of the United Kingdom and the Dominions, and Emperor of India, he inherited a vast empire. The ceremony reinforced imperial cohesion and London's central role, and after the Boer War, served as a gesture of reconciliation. Anita Ekberg, a Swedish film and runway star, broke through by winning Miss Sweden in 1950. In the following years, she swapped Hollywood for Rome and settled into the world of Cinecittà. In 1960, under Fellini, her walk through the Trevi Fountain in La Dolce Vita became a signature image of celebrity culture in Europe's post-war economic boom. In 1945, the young Princess Elizabeth joined the Auxiliary Territorial Service. She learned mechanics, drove ambulances, and supported units across Britain. Her presence in those civil-military ranks became a sign that women were in action, and that the Crown chose to share the burden and lead by example in the war effort. In the 1950s, London went through a series of smog events that culminated in the Great Smog of 1952. Coal smoke from factories and home fireplaces, combined with temperature inversions and stagnant air, choked the city, halted transportation, and caused thousands of deaths. The shock led to the 1956 Clean Air Act and sped up the shift in fuels. France, 1916. Near the Western Front, British soldiers put together a soccer team and posed with gas masks. Since the 1915 chemical attacks, that gear had become part of the daily kit. In a game, though, it was almost useless. It stifled, fogged up their vision, and broke their rhythm, serving more as a warning and a reminder of the danger around them. In 1988, Winona Ryder bursts onto the scene with Heathers, shown in this image. In the wake of the post-Reagan years and MTV aesthetics, the movie takes a bite out of high school hierarchies and flips expectations. Playing Veronica, Ryder hits a turning point. She becomes a voice of a generation and opens the door to bigger roles in Hollywood. On May 21, 1922, Washington saw the National Woman's Party return to the streets. 2 years after the 19th Amendment secured women's right to vote, the suffragists were aiming for the next step, getting equality into the law and the workplace where it was still missing, keeping up pressure for more reforms. Want to keep this trip to the past going? Subscribe and pick one of the videos on the screen.
At the start of the 20th century in Jackson, Mississippi, a Coca-Cola cart rolled through the busy streets. Stop by stop, it served icy cups and drew crowds. With every sale, the brand gained ground and became a habit, a hint of the place it would take in Americans' lives. In 1951, in Ithaca, New York, home economics students at Cornell University kicked off a project. investigate commercial washing machines. As they tested, compared, and reported results, they realized that this still new technology signaled a major change in how household chores would get done. Before we keep going, hit subscribe and turn on the bell. This tells YouTube the content's relevant and helps it reach more people. In 1967, Sophia Loren opened a new chapter by starring in A Countess from Hong Kong. Playing an elegant countess, she moves through a story that blends unexpected encounters, tough choices, and the charm of a romance with a touch of mystery. A perfect invite to follow the character's journey. In 1922, the arts crossed paths. Charlie Chaplin, a master of cinema, met Anna Pavlova, a ballet star. In moments, they recognized in each other the same creative restlessness. The exchange was brief but intense. Two worlds speaking without words, forever marking the memory of those who saw it and those who tell it. In 1912, aviation turned a page. The first passenger airplane flight took off. On board was Señorita Lenore Rivero, alongside American pioneer Tony Jannus. The experience paved the way for air travel to stop being a one-off feat and become a future plan for commercial transportation. In the feature Penelope, 1966, Natalie Wood takes center stage and steers the narrative with precision. As Penelope, she balances humor, warmth, and doubt, opening space for moments of romance and surprise. Her presence sets the film's pace and cements the role as a milestone in her career. It's a piece of work that sticks with you. In 1976, an ad framed a Stockholm breathing novelty. In the urban landscape, the eye was drawn to gull and blah jeans and, in silky contrast, to gleaming satin pants. The scene blended street and sophistication, showing how the city and fashion moved in step side by side. Summer of 1983, New York is buzzing. Down 14th Street, beats spill across windows and corners. A crew rolls in a pack, boomboxes up, playlists blasting. Wherever they stop, a circle forms. Laughter and footwork stamp the ground. The city keeps moving, but they set the tempo as the night opens like a traveling stage. In 1905, in Berlin, a couple decided to push back against custom. United by boldness, they took over the city with moves on wheels, grabbing curious glances and becoming coffeehouse talk. From the meeting of motion and expression, a landmark was born. The practice that would become skateboarding, still in its infancy, found shape and an audience. In 1980, Dolly Parton hit a creative peak. With steady presence and sky-high charisma, she filled stages, screens, and studios, launching projects that expanded her voice and reach. Each step cemented her power in global entertainment. Proof of an artist who reinvents paths and inspires generations, always plugged into her audience. In 1984, New York watched its most famous guardian go under renovation, the Statue of Liberty. To protect the landmark, visits were paused while teams worked on every detail. 2 years later, in 1986, the gates reopened, and the monument welcomed the public again, refreshed and ready for new eyes. In the 1960s Batman TV series, Adam West, Burt Ward, and Yvonne Craig gave face and rhythm to the hero and his crew, winning audiences in several countries. Their performances set a TV benchmark for the character and still echo in fans' memories, who keep celebrating this classic chapter. Vanna White became an iconic face on American TV when she took on co-hosting duties for the game show Wheel of Fortune in 1981. With a steady presence and natural charm, she quickly won over viewers. Since then, she's held the role, becoming one of the most remembered and beloved figures in entertainment. Before we keep going, hit subscribe and turn on the bell. This tells YouTube the content's relevant and helps it reach more people. In the 1920s, Ivy League campuses saw the birth of a ritual of appearance and belonging. Between classes and dances, students looked for visible signs of status. The chosen item was the raccoon fur coat, practical in the cold, striking in a crowd, and above all, a social password of prestige at the time. In 1961, at the U.S. Naval Station in Newfoundland, a moment became history. A young Marine pulled a twist with Jane Mansfield. The actress was visiting the base on a tour to entertain the troops and, amid laughs and music, offered service members a rare break from the routine, mixing show, closeness, and a dash of glamour. In 2000, cinema turned its eyes to Monica Bellucci and Milena. In the title role, she moves through a town that watches and judges her, and every gesture sparks the narrative. Her presence guides the audience, quietly carries the film, and leaves a mark that lasts long after the credits, echoing in memory. In 1983, Motorola changed the course of mobile tech by introducing the Dynatac 8000X, considered the first commercial cell phone. Heavy, sturdy, and pricey, but functional, it kicked off a new habit: talking from anywhere. From there, wireless communication accelerated and cleared the path for smartphones. In 1963, Elizabeth Taylor brought Cleopatra to the screen with a performance that mixed power and nuance. In the era-defining epic, her acting drove the narrative with authority, connecting politics, seduction, and power. Scene after scene, she holds the audience's gaze and fixes the Queen as a movie myth, a classic that still provokes. In 1947, in Laconia, New Hampshire, a motorcycle gathering got a standout chapter. Dot Robinson moved among the machines, a pioneer and founder of the Motor Maids of America. At her side, Betty, her 15-year-old daughter, followed every move and drew attention, a sign that new paths were opening. In 1931, German photographer Wilhelm Tobian headed to the Netherlands with a clear goal: document local life and dress for National Geographic magazine. Traveling through cities and villages, his camera captured everyday scenes that, once published, helped keep the memory of the country's traditions and gestures alive. In 1979, the series Buck Rogers aired an episode that marked fans by featuring Dorothy Stratton as Miss Cosmos. In the plot, she appears as the most genetically perfect woman in the universe. With steady presence and on-screen charisma, Dorothy drives the story and adds shine to the chapter. Her appearance raised the stakes and set the adventure's pace. In Luzesti and Trikala, Greece, a shopkeeper turned the market into his daily stage. He picked each product carefully, chasing freshness and trust. He paid special attention to the youngest, listened closely, and remembered preferences. That's how he showed that good service was the heart of the craft, and kept customers coming back. In the late 19th century United States, Mrs. Victorian Banner emerged. She walked streets and fairs as a human showcase, connecting shopkeepers and the public. With creative presentations, she highlighted store novelties, blending spectacle and information. In doing so, she became a local reference in promotion and boosted sales. In the 1980s, Linda Hamilton rose to prominence as Sarah Connor in The Terminator. At first, the character faces fear and fragility. Bit by bit, she confronts fate and grows stronger. The turn, backed by a confident performance, gripped the audience. Since then, her name has been linked to resilience in action cinema. In the 1990s, Pamela Anderson became a central face in entertainment. Her breakout came with Baywatch, where she played lifeguard C.J. Parker. On the sand and in the surf, her role hooked audiences and turned the red swimsuit into the show's calling card, a quick signal of the phenomenon she helped build. We've reached the end of our video. Subscribe to our channel and leave a comment if you enjoyed the content. See you next time. Jean Crane was born on May 25, 1925 in Barstow, California. She started out as a model, where she learned to handle camera flashes and the public. Soon after, she moved into movies and became one of the most remembered names in 1950s Hollywood, combining discipline and on-screen presence in roles that defined an era. In 1997, Michelle Pfeiffer returned to the spotlight with 1,000 Acres, the film version of Jane Smiley's novel. Winner of the 1992 Pulitzer Prize, the book brings the conflict of King Lear to the American Midwest, and in the movie, the story gains new layers of power, inheritance, and affection under the actress's restrained gaze. Before we go on, click subscribe and turn on the bell. That way, YouTube knows this content matters and shows it to more people. Erin Gray built her career through the 1970s and 1980s, becoming a familiar face in series and films. She moved from supporting roles to a standout presence, blending charisma and skill in parts that resonated with audiences. She stayed in the game, expanded her reach, and opened doors to new projects. Sharon Tate, actress and model, broke out in Hollywood in the vibrant 1960s. In just a few years, she went from early promise to a steady on-screen presence, combining charm with command of the stage. Her image became a reference point of the era, and each new role boosted the public's interest in her journey. Before shining as one of Hollywood's greats, Audrey Hepburn started on the dance stage. Very young, she dived into ballet, trained with discipline, and lived the routine of a ballerina and chorus girl. There she honed technique, stage presence, and sensitivity, the foundation she'd carry into film that would shape her on-screen persona. In 1994, Cameron Diaz took her first step in movies with The Mask, opposite Jim Carrey. She was 21 and trading runways for the set, taking a risk on a big change. Her debut revealed her charisma and opened the door to future roles. Her on-screen presence caught the studio's attention and sealed the move to film. Diana Rigg made her mark on British TV in the 1960s. Talented and versatile, she shot to fame as Emma Peel in The Avengers. Her charisma, dry humor, and screen presence took the series to another level and cemented her image as a female reference point for action and intelligence in pop culture. In 1978, Raquel Welch, already a film star, lit up an episode of The Muppet Show created by Jim Henson. Among irreverent puppets and fast-paced sketches, the guest star leaned into humor and stage presence, showing how stars and Muppets could share the spotlight and charm the audience. In the 1950s, Marilyn Monroe cemented herself as a major Hollywood star. Beyond the roles that made her famous, her presence blended grace, humor, and strength. The public image of glamour and sensuality coexisted with more sober, low-key moments, as a striking photo from that time reveals. In 1942, Ava Gardner was taking her first steps in Hollywood. Newly signed to MGM for 7 years, she took her studio photo for her employee card. The shot, taken at a turning point, stood the test of time and became one of the defining images of her career. In the 1990s, Cindy Crawford became a fashion icon, a constant presence on runways, covers, and campaigns. An American from DeKalb, Illinois, born February 20, 1966, she started as a teenager. From an early debut to global stardom, she built a solid, influential career that helped set trends. In 1953, Marilyn Monroe and Jane Russell immortalized their handprints at Grauman's Chinese Theater in Hollywood. The gesture, beyond honoring their careers, tied into the moment they shared the screen in Gentlemen Prefer Blondes, marking a high point in pop culture and stardom. In 1944, Hedy Lamarr was already shining as a star of Hollywood's golden age. Born November 9, 1914 in Vienna as Hedwig Eva Maria Kiesler, she left Europe in 1937 and headed to the U.S., where she cemented her fame, escaping rising tensions and a turbulent marriage to an Austrian industrialist. Angie Dickinson became a major name in the 1960s, thanks to roles that boosted her profile in film and TV. The path there was low-key. She started in 1954, moving through productions and racking up experience. Little by little, her choices and on-screen presence brought recognition, which solidified in the next decade. Grace Kelly became one of Hollywood's central faces in the 1950s. With a brief but intense career, she racked up memorable performances. In 1955, at a turning point, she traveled to Jamaica to film Where Hell Begins, The Swan, a step that crystallized her presence in cinema and expanded her reach with audiences. In 1983, Judas Priest carved its name into the U.S. festival in San Bernardino. In front of a huge, diverse crowd, the band brought British heavy metal to center stage. With tight execution and charisma, they turned the event into their showcase and left a performance that became a touchstone for fans and musicians. Before we go on, click subscribe and turn on the bell. That way, YouTube knows this content matters and shows it to more people. In 1986, Paul Hogan won over the world as the irreverent hero of Crocodile Dundee. From the vast Australian outback to the streets of New York, the adventure mixes culture clash and sharp humor, a ride that grabs you from start to finish. An icon was born, Michael J. Crocodile Dundee, fearless, clever, and big-hearted. In 1996, Tom Cruise reaffirmed his place in Hollywood with Jerry Maguire. As the title's sports agent, he faces the collapse of a brilliant career when a crisis of conscience forces him to start over. Between losses and reconciliations, he redefines success, loyalty, and purpose in search of a new direction. In 1987, Bruce Willis and Kim Basinger teamed up in Blind Date, Encontro as Escuras, a romantic comedy directed by Blake Edwards. The plot leans into the chaos of a first date that spins out of control, delivering fast-paced situations that blend romance and humor in the light spirit of 80s productions. Born September 5, 1940 in Chicago, Raquel Welch broke out in 60s cinema and quickly became a reference point. In the 70s, she solidified herself as a fashion and pop culture icon. With a strong presence and command of the screen, she became one of the most sought-after and recognized actresses of the time. Her path combined charisma and discipline. In 1988, Tom Cruise reinforced his Hollywood status by leading Cocktail, directed by Roger Donaldson. He plays Brian Flanagan, a former serviceman who lands in New York full of plans and soon finds out that ambition alone won't pay the bills. You have to learn the game to turn your luck around. In 1983, a young C. Thomas Howell worked under Francis Ford Coppola in The Outsiders. Based on S.E. Hinton's novel, the film follows clashes between youth gangs from different classes in the 60s, exploring loyalty, loss, and the scars of a world that divides its own kids. Roy Scheider, born November 10, 1932 in Orange, New Jersey, rose to prominence in the 1970s. Before movie fame, he built his chops on stage. He dove into theater, refined his technique, and built the foundation that would support his career. From that experience came the versatile actor the public would remember for decades. Suzanne Summers, American actress, author, and entrepreneur, came to prominence in the 1970s. Born October 16, 1946 in San Bruno, she got her start in entertainment as a model. From runways to magazine covers, she became a familiar face, paving the way for a long career beyond fashion and advertising. 3 film names share the frame, each bringing their own path. Front and center, Sasha Jensen draws the eye. His work gained momentum in the 1980s, opening doors and defining roles. Around him, the others complete the picture, creating a dialogue of careers that still echoes on screen today. In 1972, action cinema saw Bruce Lee at his peak. Born in 1940 in San Francisco, he didn't limit himself to the screen. He combined technique, charisma, and vision. His presence redefined fight scenes, inspired generations, and opened doors in the global market. More than an actor, he became a cultural touchstone that's still alive. In 1968, in Cardiff, Jane decided to cross a threshold. She bought her first car. On the sidewalk, she leaned on the hood and asked for the photo that would capture the moment. Her smile said more than numbers and dates. It was the feeling of independence, a fresh start, and the certainty that the city finally fit in her own hands. In 1978, Mark Hamill was at a decisive moment. After bringing Luke Skywalker to life and the success of Star Wars, released in 1977, he was solidifying his career and dealing with sudden exposure. Between new projects and life offset, he was working to establish himself beyond the hero that introduced him to the world, without losing focus. In 1985, Tom Hanks and Rita Wilson shared the screen in Volunteers. The comedy didn't blow up at the box office, but it caught critics' attention and over time won a loyal group of fans. Today, it's one of those movies that didn't become a hit, but sticks in the memory of those who discover it and keeps picking up new admirers now and then. In 1980, cinema witnessed a decisive partnership. Robert De Niro and Martin Scorsese reunited for Raging Bull. It was the duo's fourth collaboration and more than a reunion, the consolidation of a creative dialogue capable of turning a biography into an intense cinematic experience. Bob Hope and Bing Crosby defined an era. Frequent partners, they dominated the popular imagination in the 1950s with quick humor and impeccable timing. They shone in film and TV, shaping formats, influencing generations, and leaving a legacy that still resonates with anyone who loves entertainment and good stories to this day. We've reached the end of our video. Subscribe to our channel and leave a comment if you enjoyed the content. See you next time. Jacqueline Bisset, an English actress, rose to prominence in the 1960s and solidified her career in the 70s. That decade, she became a constant presence on screen and drew a loyal following. With standout roles, she turned each appearance into a reference point, leaving a lasting contribution to world cinema. Before shining in 1970s cinema, Charlotte Rampling was already getting noticed. She started as a model, became a sought-after face on the runways and a style reference. With a strong presence and captivating gaze, she became a striking figure in fashion, a sure gateway to the career that would make her a star on screen. Jill St. John stood out as the first American Bond girl in 007 Diamonds Are Forever, 1971. Alongside Sean Connery, she delivered a confident, memorable performance. The mix of timing, presence, and on-screen chemistry cemented her name in the James Bond universe and expanded her global reach. If you're enjoying the content, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Bo Derek, actress and model, rose to fame at the end of the 1970s and stayed relevant in the decades that followed. Her name became tied to the success of 10, which turned her into a pop icon, and the impact of Tarzan, the Son of the Jungle, solidifying a notable career in film and culture with lasting influence. Audrey Landers, actress and singer, rose to prominence in the 70s by moving smoothly between screens and stages. During the decade, she took part in a variety of projects, showed a distinctive voice and on-screen presence, drew media attention, and built a loyal fan base, establishing herself as a versatile artist in television and music. Pam Grier, a film icon, became a symbol of action by paving the way for female leads. Her breakthrough came in the 1970s, when she headlined productions that combined charisma and energy and became landmarks of the genre, cementing her image as a trailblazer and inspiring generations of artists and audiences. In the 70s, Raquel Welch established herself as a film reference. Among her works from the period, Three Friends in Trouble stands out, a comic western in which she plays a Southern belle from the Old West. The performance drew attention. Beyond her on-screen charisma, she shaped the character with gestures inspired by classic pinups. In the 70s, Barbara Bach, an American actress, rose to fame playing Anya Amasova, a Soviet agent and Bond girl in 007, The Spy Who Loved Me, 1977. Her performance captivated audiences and critics, blending action and intelligence in the character's creation and marking the peak of her career in the franchise's history. Farrah Fawcett became a sensation as the lead in the first season of Charlie's Angels. With a magnetic presence, she won over audiences worldwide and became the face of an era. She left the show early but kept going strong. She shone in film and TV projects, broadening her reach and legacy for decades. Jane Birkin became a global name. Her career and dedication to social causes went hand in hand. Meeting Serge Gainsbourg defined a decade of creativity and affection, producing classics of French song. Among them, the provocative Je t'aime, moi non plus, which still resonates today and inspires new generations. Angie Dickinson built a career spanning 6 decades with more than 50 films. With a striking presence, she became a reference in cinema. In the 70s, she gained momentum with titles like Gangsters Don't Forget and The Machine Gun Woman, securing her place among the key names of her generation. Linda Carter gained international recognition when she was crowned Miss World USA in 1972, a gateway to bigger opportunities. Years later, her role as Wonder Woman in the TV series cemented her image and turned her into a lasting pop culture reference, combining charisma, strength, and presence. With an eye on the audience, Lauren Hutton started on the runways and turned fashion's showcase into a doorway to film. From set to screen, she landed key roles and left her mark in The Player and American Gigolo, confirming talent that carried through different phases of her career. The transition amplified her artistic voice. Debbie Harry became known worldwide as the voice of Blondie. At the helm of the band, she brought new wave and punk rock into the spotlight in the 70s and 80s, shaping generations. Between stages and studios, she branched out, acted in films and series, influenced fashion, and maintained a presence that still inspires in pop. If you're enjoying the content, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Catherine Bach rose to prominence in the 70s playing Daisy Duke in The Hotties. With a memorable presence, she turned the character into a touchstone, charm without excess, a strong stance, and quick thinking that drove the plot. Her performance made its mark on pop culture, paving the way for new TV heroines in the US today. Britt Ekland, a Swedish actress, made her mark on film through the 60s and 70s. Her role in Get Carter, a British classic, cemented her image and international profile. With assured presence and sharp timing, she won over audiences and critics, becoming a lasting, influential reference of her generation. Margot Hemingway, Ernest Hemingway's granddaughter, shone as a supermodel in the vibrant 1970s. With striking beauty and a hypnotic presence, she graced covers and editorials of major magazines, securing a standout place in global fashion and becoming one of the most memorable faces of that era. Born in Nicaragua, Bianca Jagger became a prominent figure in 1970s culture. With a magnetic presence and her own style, she was a constant face at New York Studio 54 Nights. Her way of moving between fashion and society put her in the spotlight, cementing her as the decade's ultimate it girl. Olivia Newton-John shone as a singer and actress, winning over audiences starting in the 1970s. Her role as Sandy in Grease became a touchstone and launched her globally. After the film, she stayed strong in music, racking up hits and a place in pop culture. Her path combined charisma and versatility, keeping her relevant for years. In the 1970s, Jaclyn Smith rose to prominence on television as a star of Charlie's Angels. Her steady presence gave the show its identity and made her a familiar face to the public. She was the only one of the original leads to stay until the end, cementing her image as a defining figure of the show. The role left its mark on pop culture. Beverly Johnson changed the course of fashion. In August 1974, by appearing on the cover of American Vogue, she became the first black model to occupy that space. The milestone tore down barriers, redefined references, and opened doors for new voices, making Beverly a lasting symbol of transformation. If you're enjoying the content, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Jerry Hall started her modeling career in the 1970s and soon became a global name. With striking features and a presence that commanded both studio and runway, she became a fashion reference. She walked for major houses and graced magazine covers, establishing herself among the most sought-after professionals of the period. Faye Dunaway took her first steps in the early 1960s on Broadway, honing her technique and presence. In 1967 came the turning point. As Bonnie Parker in Bonnie and Clyde, she achieved worldwide recognition and opened a decisive phase, establishing herself among the great film names of her generation. In 1973, Jane Seymour rose to prominence playing the psychic solitaire in 007 Live and Let Die, from the iconic franchise. It was one of her first major roles and introduced her talent to the public. The performance made an impression on fans and secured her place in the James Bond legacy among the spy's most remembered partners. Cheryl Tiegs, an American supermodel, rose to prominence in the 1970s with covers and editorials in heavyweight titles like Sports Illustrated Swimsuit Issue and Time. Her constant presence boosted her visibility and cemented her as one of fashion's most recognizable and influential names, connecting audiences and brands in a standout career. Cheryl Ladd, an American actress, rose to fame when she joined Charlie's Angels in 1977. She arrived to replace Farrah Fawcett and played Chris Monroe, Jill's sister. With a confident presence and sharp timing, she refreshed the trio's dynamic and kept the show riding high, drawing new fans without breaking with the spirit that had already won over the audience. Kate Jackson, an American actress, rose to prominence in the 1970s playing Sabrina Duncan in Charlie's Angels. Her strong, charismatic presence anchored the show and opened the door to more active female roles on TV. With assured choices and precise acting, she became a reference point for a generation of viewers. We've reached the end of the video. If you enjoyed it, leave a like and subscribe to the channel. See you next time. Marguerite Empey, known as Diane Weber, shone in the 1950s as a model, dancer, and actress. Using her birth name, she posed twice for Playboy and appeared on pop record covers. Later, she embraced nudism, advocating for that lifestyle in magazines and helping bring it into public debate. In the 1950s, Marilyn Monroe steps in front of the cameras with a baton, directing the audience's gaze. Between takes, she moves with ease, lets out a smile, and holds the scene. A Hollywood star and a symbol of the 20th century, she projected confidence and comic timing, turning every pose into an invitation to see more. Before we go on, hit subscribe and turn on the bell. That way, each new chapter gets to you right on time and nothing on this journey slips by. Up to the 20th century, a traveling sharpener used to roam the streets of Berlin. He carried a pedal-powered whetstone and stopped wherever needed. He sharpened scissors, knives, and household tools. To announce his arrival, he'd bang a pot, its metallic ring guiding residents to his cart. In 1924, in the United Kingdom, there were the so-called muffin men, sellers who walked through neighborhoods with a tray covered by a white cloth. They carried popular sweetbreads, announcing their passage with a handbell. The sound marked the street, drew customers to the window, and guided anyone who wanted a quick snack. Born in 1938 in Doncaster, Diana Rigg crossed stages and screens. She joined the Royal Shakespeare Company in 1960 and explored classic roles that sharpened her presence. The leap came between 1965 and 1968 when she played the spy Emma Peel in The Avengers, a performance that made her known worldwide and marked pop culture. At the start of the 20th century, Mott Street in New York marked the heart of Chinatown. Along its blocks, shops, cultural associations, and temples sprang up to welcome Chinese immigrants in search of a future. The facades displayed posters, lanterns, and flags, and the street pulsed as a hub of gathering and belonging. A symbol of luxury and rarity, the Bugatti Type 41 Royale Coupe was born in 1929 in France. Its long, curved silhouette, commanding grille and hood capped by a small bronze elephant, created an unmistakable presence. Production was minimal, only 6 units, making it a legend among collectors. In February 1905, a cold snap sealed the Mississippi from bank to bank. Rare as it is, the river became a road. People crossed miles over the crust, testing each step, listening for cracks. In the sunlight, slabs sparkled, and the white ice cut against the blue sky. A scene hard to forget. In County Donegal, Ireland, a farm rested among pastures and hills. From the stone house thatched with straw rose the smoke of the hearth. Out front, a garden with flowers and vegetables. Next to it, the barn housed cows, sheep, and chickens. There, every dawn brought footsteps in the dew and the clink of buckets. Jean Seberg, face of the Nouvelle Vague, became a symbol in 1960 with Breathless by Goddard. Between Europe and the US, she made more than 30 films, from Saint Joan and Bonjour Tristesse to Airport and The Mouse That Roared. Off-screen, she dove into politics. She supported the Black Panthers and had a romance with leader Hakeem Jamal. Through Giacomo Broghi's lens, late 19th century Naples comes alive. Street vendors, alleys and squares, churches and palaces, monuments and markets, the sea, boats in the harbor, and volcanoes in the background. From everyday life to grand vistas, his images follow a city in transition in the wake of Italian unification. Atop the hill in Athens, the Acropolis stood out as an emblem of a Greece that set the tone for power, culture, and faith. In 1985, already marked by time, it still commanded respect. The Parthenon, the Temple of Athena Nike, the Erechtheion, and the Propylaea revealed in stone the living dialogue among Egyptian, Persian, Phoenician, and Greek traditions. In 1910, a family of immigrants reached Ellis Island, then the gateway to the U.S. With suitcases and expectations, they crossed the hall toward screening. In line, the silence weighed. The medical and legal exam would decide the next step, the real chance to carve a path from scratch and build a future in an unknown land. Before we go on, hit subscribe and turn on the bell. That way, each new chapter gets to you right on time, and nothing on this journey slips by. In the 1910s, a fountain on Washington Avenue in Detroit was left running in the dead of winter. The water hitting the metal froze layer upon layer, rising to nearly 30 feet. Unplanned, the structure became an avenue attraction, stopping passers-by in their tracks and turning a slip-up into an urban spectacle. In 1991, Italian actress Monica Bellucci appeared on the European film scene. With a presence that held your gaze, she blended technique and charisma. Dark hair, steady eyes, and full lips made her unmistakable. On screen, her smile and voice led the audience, signaling a career that would gain momentum and open doors beyond Europe. Enzo Ferrari, a determined Italian, started behind the scenes. He tested cars at CMN in Milan in the early 1920s. In 1920, he stepped on the gas and joined Alfa Romeo's racing team. There, he made a name among the great drivers, and from that push on the track, the legendary Ferrari would later be born. In 1935, a taxi driver cruised the streets of Warsaw behind the wheel of a black car. The scene, captured by Karol Paczerski, reveals everyday life in Poland's capital on the eve of war. The shot is part of the collection Warsaw in Images, a careful portrait of a city in motion and memory. In 1940, a high-deck truck rolled down the road carrying 4 Buicks at once. The destination was Chillicothe, in the state of Ohio. They were upper-category vehicles known for elegant design and sturdiness, symbols of an era that valued presence and reliability on the streets. The blizzard of 1978 blanketed New York and threw daily life off course. In Times Square, the city's pulsing center, silence took over. Empty streets, darkened signs, Broadway at a standstill. Between scares and improvising, the city learned to wait. When the snow eased, what remained was the memory of a day that became a chapter in the collective mind. Anita Ekberg, a Swede, rose to fame in European and American cinema in the 60s. She started as a beauty queen and model. She was Miss Sweden in 1951 and a Miss Universe finalist. She then headed to Universal Studios, where she trained in acting, dance, and diction, plus horseback riding and fencing, shaping the persona that would make her an icon. In June 1910, a cowboy pauses atop a hill next to his horse and looks down at other animals grazing on the Bonham, Texas plain. He belongs to a West that's saying goodbye. Between risks and routine, he lives off the land while the world speeds up with new machines, voices, and urban habits. From the Ross Ice Shelf to Mount Erebus, the Barne Glacier draws an icy corridor. In 1911, Herbert Ponting recorded it during the Terra Nova expedition, led by Robert Falcon Scott. The journey aimed to be the first to reach the South Pole, and along the way gathered valuable data for science and mapping of the region. In the 19th and early 20th centuries, the lamplighter walked the streets operating gas lamps. With a long pole and a hook, he adjusted valves high on the posts, lighting them at dusk, putting them out at dawn. The routine demanded precision and courage. The gas, unstable, could ignite and cause explosions. In the 1990s, Claudia Schiffer gained worldwide prominence. Born in 1970 in Germany, she started her career at 17 when an agent noticed her in a nightclub. She moved to Paris, landed the cover of Elle, and from there drew the attention of Karl Lagerfeld and Gianni Versace, cementing herself as a fashion reference. In 1977, Cheryl Ladd took over from Farrah Fawcett on Charlie's Angels and brought Chris Monroe, Jill's sister, to life. The visibility from the series boosted her career. She released 3 albums and appeared on variety shows. In 1980, she sang the U.S. national anthem at Super Bowl XIV in front of a huge crowd. On the Missouri, one of the great American rivers, sailed the Rosebud, a steamboat with a single paddle wheel at the stern. It carried passengers and cargo along the current. In 1874, it faced a feared stretch, Drowned Man's Rapids, so named for the many accidents that had swept those waters. We've reached the end of our video. Subscribe to our channel and drop a comment if you like the content. See you next time.